Do you remember, can you imagine a time without the internet? Yeah, I think it's very difficult to do nowadays, right? So no communication, no Netflix, none of that. And it's difficult to imagine, but a lot of us have actually been in that world without the internet. I remember those days when, I used to write long letters to Aarti, my wife, and possibly wait for 2 weeks to get a response back, right? So those were the days. Very romantic, but life was very slow, right? Full of, it was cumbersome, correct? And it was complicated. So that's how things were. But then the internet happened. And now things are fast, rapid, and you know what? Very simple, isn't it? So that's what a paradigm shift does. A paradigm shift, what it does is it just changes the way things happen. And we are actually living that world, right, with the internet. And so it's kind of become part of our life. We don't even think twice about it. So that really is a paradigm shift. So what was the paradigm shift in communication which happened with the internet? The paradigm shift was earlier communication used to happen within closed walls and it was centralized. And what the internet protocol and what the internet way of doing things was, it decentralized thing. And there was a protocol, the TCP/IP protocol, which said that this is how various computers can communicate with each other. And you see the difference, right? Communication costs came down, communication became easier, and the whole revolution happened because of the internet. So today I'm going to talk to you about the paradigm shift when it comes to work itself. Okay, so there is a paradigm shift which we are all experiencing in LEC, and I'd like to give you a glimpse of what it is all about, right? What is this paradigm shift about? So you think about the word management itself, right? There are certain assumptions over there. The word manage itself means what? That someone has to use hands to control. That's the origin of the word manage. That means somebody has to use your hands to control someone else. What's the assumption over there? That person doesn't actually want to do things on their own initiative, right? That's why somebody else needs to control that person to make that person do something that they wouldn't have done naturally. So that is the underlying assumption. And where does that assumption come from? That assumption has come from because if you really think about business, where value was getting created, it was being created possibly in the slave market, in the army, later in the factories, where by nature, work was not something that people would like to do. It was not something people would enjoy, right? Nobody says, okay, I want to go and become a slave laborer, right? Nobody will say that. And therefore, you needed a lot of management. You needed carrots and sticks to get people to do what they would not have done on their own, right? So that is really one key paradigm about the typical way we think about management. There's another interesting paradigm that is in operation, typically. And what's that paradigm? That an organization is like a machine, right? An organization is like a machine. And what happens in the machine? Somebody kind of designs the machine. And then every part of the machine needs to work as it was designed. Correct. And if a part breaks down, you need to replace another part with that. And essentially, people are just parts of the machine. So we are not looking at somebody's, thinking, faking initiative and so on. We just want people to do what is required by them to be done, what is defined for them to be done. This is the paradigm, essentially, what typically management operates from. So now let me take an example. What happens? What if we change the paradigm? So we have Deepti over here. See Deepti? Yeah. So Deepti and her, Deepti and her team, partners, 4 of them, including Sajjad. So they came to me once and said, okay, we are feeling stuck. We're feeling stuck in our business, and her business is they run a creative agency into, advertising, digital marketing, various aspects of it. So they came to me and said, we're feeling stuck. So what's happening? So at work, we seem to be, talking about certain things on and not able to see eye to eye. We are not able. So a lot of discussions have to take long time and so on and so forth. So sometimes we don't even feel like going to work. Sometimes you don't, all the partners and the senior team members cannot even take a holiday at the same time. Why? Because then things will just come to a standstill at work, right? There's so much of dependence on the senior team. So these are the kind of things that Deepthi was sharing with me, right? And so Deepthi and the team, all the senior people, they attended the workshop from Liberated Interest Creators. And after 8 months, they implemented a lot of things. And after 8 months, so when I'm interacting with them, they're telling me that, all the senior people in the team can go on a holiday. Doesn't matter, because the team has taken ownership. And they are able to deal with the clients, take decisions and so on. And the clients are very happy with the results which are happening. Earlier, things were such that, the senior team was totally focused on operations, day-to-day, meeting deadlines, solving issues and so on and so forth. Now they're able to focus on much more important things that as a management they need to be focusing on. It's a getting forceful. So now we're able to do that. So you can see amazing change in results, right? Okay. So what happened? What was the change? The liberated enterprise paradigm was what they got introduced to and they implemented it. So would you like to, curious about what this paradigm is all about? The liberated enterprise paradigm? Curious to know what it is? Okay. So there are two fundamental foundational elements on which this paradigm really works for. Okay. They question that, right? The ethical management paradigm is about, hey, work is something that you do not like to do. And therefore you need a carrot and stick to be able to get people to work. That was the original assumption. So we question that assumption right in the beginning. Because if you really look at human nature, is it human nature not to work? I'll give you an example. So think about a small kid, around a year old, learning to walk. Now, learning to walk is a lot of exertion, right? The kid will fall, they try to figure out what to do next. It might cry also, it might get hurt, but it will get up and try to walk again. So if you really think about it, human nature is not about not doing something. It's really about exerting, about growing, about developing. It's about learning. It's about contributing. That is what human nature really is, right? So it's not human nature not to work, not to grow. It's not human nature. So in fact, there might be a fault somewhere else. It's the way we are designed work and the way we are organizing work. That is the reason why people are not wanting to work. They don't feel like Monday morning is something that they like to look up for. Okay. They like to look at, weekend is something that they are looking out for. So this is the change. This is the fundamental paradigm shift that we need to be aware of, that work is something fundamentally we all enjoy. Work needs to be designed in such a way that is a pleasure, and work itself is fulfillment. So that's the fundamental paradigm. Okay. And the second paradigm, as I mentioned, is the assumption that the work is, or the organization is like a machine, and somebody at the top has figured out everything else to do. Okay. Now there's a problem with that particular paradigm of an organization. And what's that fundamental problem? The problem is, in a machine, supposing a nut gets spoiled, what happens? You just replace that nut with another nut of the same specification, right? Because you get nuts in same standards and specification. Now, do you get people with the same, shapes, sizes, inclinations, motivations, aspirations, and so on? You never find two people who are alike, right? So there is a fundamental problem with thinking of organizations like a machine. So what is the solution? The solution is there's a different paradigm to look at work. Okay. And you start looking at work or organization more like a living system. So what's a good parallel? Think about a forest. Think about a forest. In a forest, everything is thriving, right? Everything is thriving, and every entity in the forest is doing things for their own intrinsic motivation. The tree is giving flowers for its own reasons. The bees are going to the flowers for its own reason. And together they're collaborating, they're creating value for each other, right? And is there a central command in the forest? No, right? Things are just happening because of intrinsic motivation. right? And there's so little effort required in a forest, isn't it? Compare it to a Mughal garden or something like that. If you don't tend it for some time, the whole garden will go collapse very fast. A forest doesn't do that. A lot of activity happens in a forest, but it happens effortlessly. So that is the paradigm that we start thinking about organizations as living systems rather than visuals. Now, the moment you do that, what you start doing is, instead of allocating work or tasks, for people to tasks, okay, you do the reverse. You allocate tasks to people. Because in a mission paradigm, you need to fit people into certain roles. That's why you have job descriptions, right? You have KRAs. You have appraisals. What are you trying to do over there? You're trying to see if the part that you have said, okay, needs to fit in over here, is it behaving the way it's supposed to behave? Okay, it's a machine mindset. So instead of that, you do the reverse. You say, okay, fine, we got this task to be done. Let's give it to people who enjoy those tasks. Let them do it. It's a different paradigm, right? Give tasks to people who enjoy it. They are good at it, or they want to grow with it, they want to learn, and therefore they want to do those tasks. Okay? And this is a different paradigm. And the other paradigm is that somebody at the top knows best. Okay, so that's the other assumption in the machine paradigm, right? Some designer has figured it out and, okay, everybody has to do this. And therefore, people suddenly kind of feel that they don't have a say in what is happening in their work, right? They see something which to be attended to, but they don't have the powers or the agency to be able to do that. And therefore, they feel disempowered and they don't feel motivated at work. Now, suddenly you kind of say, no, decision making needs to be happening by each and every person at the spot, at the place where the action is. And suddenly you see people are taking initiative, they're taking ownership, and they're taking responsibility. And what's happening is freeing up the top leadership's time, right? That's what starts happening. So this is the paradigm shift, that the three key things that need to, fundamental assumptions that we need to keep in mind. So how do you go about it? There's another big problem which happens. You might say, okay, fine, all this is good, but I've noticed that when I hand over responsibility to somebody else, things start, falling apart. And you know what? You're not alone in this. Steve Jobs also faced it, Michael Dell also faced the same problem. When the entrepreneur is not there, things start falling apart. Okay. Remember when Steve Jobs left Apple, Michael Dell left Dell, the company started going down and they had to come back to revive the organization. Why was that happening? Weren't these two companies able to get, highly qualified, very talented professionals as CEOs? They did. So what happened? So this is what I say is something called the entrepreneurial instinct. And what is this entrepreneurial instinct? It's very specific to each individual. For instance, Steve Jobs could not have built Dell. Michael Dell could not have built Apple. Two different organizations, right? Two different values that they are offering to the clients. Very different. Okay. So you see how the entrepreneurial instinct is so different for these two individuals. Highly successful, but so different. They can't replace each other. And how do decision making really happen in organizations? So people come to the entrepreneur saying that, okay, shall we do it this way? They come with choices, different options. And would you like me to do it this way or that way? Right? And then the entrepreneur will say, yes, I like this method, do it this way. Right? Or I don't like this, don't do it this way. I feel this is right, so do it this way. And essentially what is happening is the entrepreneur is using their gut feeling, instinct, the entrepreneurial instinct to take those decisions. Right? And you know what? The entrepreneur himself doesn't know why he is deciding in a particular manner. And that's the reason why when the entrepreneur is not there, others also don't know how to decide. There are different ways to take decisions, right? So they don't know on what basis to take a decision. So the idea is to make this very clear, the entrepreneurial instincts, bring it to the surface, be able to verbalize it, and be able to articulate it so that the entrepreneur himself knows this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And he's able to explain it to his team members, to his organization. This is how we can take decisions in the organization. This is the kind of value we are creating for others. And let's go ahead and do it in the future in this manner. And that is what is the missing link. Okay, and once the entrepreneur is able to do it, he can get liberated. He need not be there every time a decision needs to happen. That's the key. So what did we do for, what do we do in the program, and what did Deepti and her team get? So to get the alignment right, that is one of the foundational elements, right? There are two activities we need to do. One is discover the entrepreneur's own this thing, and then articulate this. That's one aspect. And the second is the self-organizing manner of organizing teams, right? So there are certain concepts and there are certain practices that we need to do on a day-to-day basis so that the team becomes self-organizing. And with these two things, you start seeing that, okay, everybody is feeling fulfilled at work. They're feeling liberated at work. And that's how the new paradigm of work, the liberated enterprise paradigm of work, starts giving you such amazing results of creating fulfilled entrepreneurs and teams.